First of all, let me introduce myself. My name's Alan Herf, and I work at MySpace, and I think it's awesome that we're able to host this today along with our other OpenSocial friends. And let me go over some logistics to get them out of the way. To be repetitive, again, if you need Wi-Fi access on any of the pillars, you can find our guest username and password. If you have any problems now, throughout the day, you can come find me up here, or I'll be floating around. I'm pretty easy to find. Logistically, obviously there's the food back here. We'll be serving lunch around noon. Later on, we'll be serving dinner and cocktails as well. If you need the bathroom, basically where that basketball hoop thing is, right through that door, there's bathrooms, or where that exit sign is, it wraps around to the bathrooms. And if you can't find the bathrooms, just ask somebody and we'll help you find it. Also, if you didn't get raffle tickets on the way in today, which hopefully most everybody did, there's Jeff right here from Google. Jeff can help you all day long get raffle tickets if you didn't, and if not, again, find me and I'll find Jeff. So basically, I want to move on to our next slide. Oh, I did the welcome, so. so I want to be really brief here and just talk at a really high level. What we want to do today is we want to talk about where we've been, and what I mean by that, which David and Dan and others will go into, is this was a dream or an idea a year ago, and obviously with all of you sitting here, it's reality now. And what our hope is to talk about where we're going and what our next dreams are for OpenSocial. And when we sit again together in a year, that'll become our reality, and we'll layer on our next dreams. And all that's possible not because of the people that got in a room and started OpenSocial. It's because of all you, and let me be clear, it is because of all you that OpenSocial happens, and because we take your feedback. So, and then what we're going to do today after lunch is we're going to get into the fun stuff, which you're all here to do, which hack and really collaborate and grow this thing. So, and with that, being brief, I basically want to introduce David Glazer, who's a huge part of this and help pioneer this happening. Thanks.
Thanks, Alan. And thank you, MySpace, for hosting for all of us. So many of you have been along with us for this ride for the last little bit. What I want to do in the next half hour, I'm going to introduce it and then bring up a few people to give you a State of the Union as we've looked back and said, what's gone on in the last year? What did we hope would happen? What has happened? What's to happen next? Next slide, please. Here's the State of the Union in 7 words. That's kind of where things are. This is what we all believe. We all know it to be true. There's actually some real depth behind all of these. You know, when we say that social is good, what does that mean? That means people care more about other people than just about anything else. And anywhere that you let people take advantage of that, you're doing something good. And what do we mean by web is good? We mean that the model of the web, the open model of lightweight, interoperable standards and protocols built by the community, owned by the community, put together in unusual and surprising ways by the community, that works. That's why what's happened to the web over the last 15 years, and that's what's starting to happen to the social web. So, next slide, please. A little over a year ago, and my kids remind me that my kids remember when OpenSocial started, and I said, how do you know that? And they said, well, remember when we were trick-or-treating and you had your cell phone out? It was October 31st, was the night before the campfire. So November 1st, last year, is when many of you in the room were there, when we kicked this off at a campfire. Next slide, please. What did we do at the campfire? We made a promise. We collectively said to the web that we're going to make things better. We're going to do it by delivering an open social platform that will allow all sorts of goodness to happen. And we're going to make this happen. We're going to come together. We're going to do it. Next slide, please. And we're going to make it easy for developers to build applications that can let users do social things in lots of containers all over the web. This is what we said. So go ahead, next slide, please. It's now been 378 days. Can you hold this for me for a second? It's been 378 days since the campfire. That's right. Of all of us working together to make the web better by making it social. Next. So here we are. Wanted to take a look at what were we hoping would happen. What were our goals? So we had goals, and I'm going to just touch on them in four areas. So the first one is we hoped that this whole effort, this whole process would be good for users. We wanted to give users on the web more things to do with the people that they cared about wherever they were on the web. We want to improve the user experience because people care about people. Let's let them do social things anywhere they want to be on the web with the people they care about. Next. For developers, many of you in the room are application developers. We want to make it easy for you to take your good ideas and get them to reach more users with less effort, more for less. For social networks, we wanted to give your users more things to do when they visited, make it easier for you to improve the experience, and more importantly, for you to harness the power of other people to improve the experience of your users when they come visit your site, because there's now new social applications. And then finally, we wanted to make it good for the web in general. We thought that another open standard, another to the family of open standards on the web, addressing the area of social was going to just continue the spread and evolution of the web, continue the innovative engine that the web has done by harnessing the power of all of the people here and all of the people in the larger community to really build on open standards and do surprisingly good things. That's what we hoped. So over the next 3 or 4 speakers, next slide please, we're going to be giving you a quick update on how it's gone in terms of adoption, what's happened. Has anyone cared? Is anyone using this thing? Does this standard matter? We're going to give you an update in terms of the community. This went from a relatively small number of us who'd been talking about how can we make the web better by making it social in an open way to a large community with a bunch of efforts. We'll be talking about that. And what about the technology? When we launched, some of you have scars from remembering 0.5 of OpenSocial when we launched. We were talking about what version it should be, and a year ago we said, feels half-baked, version 0.5. It's come a long way, give you an update on that. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Dan Peterson, who's going to give us an update on adoption. Thanks.
Hey everybody. So OpenSocial adoption has been going quite well this past year. Certainly for a common standard, it's essential that you have sort of growing, broad, global distribution, so that way it's actually adopted by lots of people and lots of people can use it. We actually see more than 20 containers are live today. So right now, we're at 600 million user reach for OpenSocial. And that's a really large number, and we actually see that number continuing to grow. One reason that OpenSocial adoption has gone so well is that there aren't any NDAs required to get involved with OpenSocial. Anybody can get involved. It's very easy to get started. There's a lot of open source code and a big community you can leverage as you're doing this. Another thing to mention is that when you look at the legend there on the right, the left-hand side, those are the sites that have launched user-facing. And you can see around the world, there's some really large global players. Probably also some that people in this room don't quite recognize. Let's slice the data one other way. So this is the global reach of OpenSocial, which shows a map of where a site is live that is predominant in a given market. So certainly Russia, the US, Brazil, China, there are lots of these areas that are covered already. We got a little bit more work to do in, say, Greenland or Canada, maybe to really cover the map, and Africa certainly as well. But it's definitely very global reach. To touch on some of the more recent launches, so Ning launched about 3 or 4 weeks back, and that was, I think, a very, very interesting part to see, given that Ning is a different kind of social network, a different kind of social site. It's good to see the OpenSocial standard fits in that use case as well. Wuyao, 51.com, is a big Chinese site that launched a few weeks back as well, which is good to see China launching to users. The Yahoo application platform shipped just a couple weeks back and using OpenSocial, and that's going to be even more reach, even more global reach. Also for LinkedIn, LinkedIn's launch was also just a couple weeks back, and that's really great because we can go beyond just throwing sheep, right? So, and in fact, I have a couple more launches to tell you about right now. So Xiaoné, which is another large OpenSocial network now in China, just shipped last night. So that'll be part of what we'll do on the global container crawl later today when we get to the sort of programming section of the day. But they have 30 million registered users. Also, I'm very happy to announce that MySpace, on behalf of MySpace, I'm announcing that MySpace has shipped OpenSocial version 0.8, including the REST protocol. So it's great to see them move from 0.7 onto 0.8, and we'll keep going. So some of the under the hood usage stats. So I'd mentioned 600 million user reach, but that's sort of potential reach of registered users across the globe. What are these people actually doing? We've seen that on average, 1 in every 2 users on these networks has installed at least 1 application. That's a big number. Also, the 85 million canvas page views per day. What that really means is it's not just profile renders. These applications, these people who are really using these applications, getting a lot of value out of them. And lots of apps, lots of containers. So this has definitely been possible through lots of events like this around the globe. These are some pictures from events in London, in San Francisco, in Manila, in Beijing. A lot of these events make this happen. And I'd actually like to bring up Paul Linder now, who can speak to High Five's usage and how they got involved with OpenSocial.
Thanks, Dan. So everybody remember what it was like before OpenSocial? Yeah, so this is, from developers and from container standpoint, I mean, this is sort of what it felt like. We were down in the mines. We were trying to do the best we can with like crazy Flash embeds and endpoints where people were posting whatever crazy crap they could try and get on High Five. We even went so far as to like formalize that before OpenSocial came about by making it sort of a standard way of embedding stuff into websites. And I mean, widget community has come a long way since then, but in any case, that's sort of the way it felt at High Five. We were considering maybe building a platform, but we really didn't have, the resources, and we're quite a small company. But now that since OpenSocial, I can say we're a success story. We've been able to take it in many different ways. We've been able to really contribute to a community-wide effort, and I'm just going to go over some of the highlights of it. So, next slide. So, as you know, about 2 weeks before the campfire event, we got a call from Patrick Shanazan from Google, who basically 2 weeks just hacking on this stuff, making it work, getting apps running up on High Five, and basically, so after 2 weeks, we were able to present something that really, really worked. It worked with some apps from Slide, and we were really, really happy. And that was, we'll call that the 0.5 version of OpenSocial. But the nice thing about OpenSocial is a very open platform, and we're able to sort of, as it evolved, we were able to find new and interesting ways to use it. So one of the projects that we had at High Five was we wanted to replace High Five music. I mean, there are a lot of different apps out there that do music really, really well and would engage our users much better than anything that we could cook up on our own. Add to the fact that dealing with record labels is sort of not the most fun thing to do in the world. So what we did is 4 people, 2 music apps, and within 2 months, we were actually able to take the OpenSocial platform and deploy it to 100% of High Five users. So, and that's millions and millions of users throughout the world. And iLike and Cloud are the 2 companies that participated. And at that time, it was an evolving standard. We got 0.6 in place. And again, a big success by working with the members of this community, the container community, and the developer community. So basically, that answered the question, can OpenSocial scale? Yes, it could. And so then we wanted to open it up to everyone, because we really realized the potential that was there. At the same time, we realized there was a bunch of limitations, so we needed to make a good developer application. We needed to open up all the viral channels, make a mechanism for apps to do all this stuff, and for users to remain in control. For a simple app with only 2 things like that, it was pretty easy to police. But when we want to open it up to everyone, that's a much larger effort. So we devoted 6 people, and in 3 months, we ended up with a 0.7 implementation with 65 apps. And again, we rolled it out a small bit at a time, but within 2 weeks, 100% of High Five users were using it, highly engaged users, and to this, and then so finally, since then, we've just been going on and on, working with the community, doing more and more, and today now we have 2,100 apps. We've got 0.8 support. We're working on 0.9 initiatives with a bunch of people in this room and elsewhere, and we couldn't be happier. So the basically before and now, after. So no more coal mines, big grins, big happy thumbs up to everyone in the room. Count High Five as a success story. And a big shout out to the community, which Lane is going to talk about now. And no more dull and listless hair.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, everyone. My name is Lane. I work at Google, and I've been working closely with the OpenSocial community since Campfire 1, a little bit before. And I just want to kind of talk about what it is and what we do and The main takeaway here is that it's open for everyone. I mean, just by being here, you're part of the community, and you keep in mind there's people all over the world that are contributing and building OpenSocial. So the first thing I want to talk about is OpenSocial Foundation. Do we have any lawyers in the room today? Lawyers? Not a lot? None? Okay. So this is why we have the OpenSocial Foundation. Okay? We all want to build cool stuff with OpenSocial. We don't want to deal with the IP, right? We've got lots of companies all providing stuff to OpenSocial. We want to make sure that going forward, that technology is free to use by everyone. It's not proprietary at all. The other thing about the foundation, we just recently had elections to elect some community board members. And you know, this is not like the boardroom or it's all dark, scary, closed room meetings. These are just, you know, familiar faces. They look friendly enough here. I think probably all of them are here. You'll meet them. If you have questions about the foundation, just ask them. And what the board is not, they're not, you know, a group of people defining or controlling the spec. These guys don't even really post on the spec mailing list, which is where all those decisions get made. So next slide, I'll talk about that. The spec process itself is, we base it off of some stuff that we learned from writing open source code. Basically, we want everybody to be able to be involved. We want all decisions to be made in public, so everybody can have their voice heard. We look at people as individuals, not companies. No one person in the community gets more stature or anything just because of what company they work for. It's based on their opinions and what they're trying to do to drive the API forward. And there's also, it's driven by consensus. So the spec process is really set up so that if there's dissenting opinions, you have to actually take those into account, and it helps drive, you know, the best direction for the entire community. And then so we use those tenets and we iterate. We've gone through several versions of OpenSocial. Basically, we have a period where people can propose new ideas, we discuss them, we have a voting procedure, and then we draft up what we decided to do, and then we implement it to make sure it actually can be done. And then we publish a spec, and after it's published, we'll start seeing containers deploy this stuff in live systems. So I just want to take a quick aside here and look at, you know, what are the iterations we've gone through using this process. I just want to plug, there's going to be a breakout session later to talk about some of the architectures that we see with OpenSocial apps, and they've kind of been, every time we have an iteration, we see a new one. So if you like these diagrams, come to that breakout and we'll learn more about them. But basically, when we first launched OpenSocial, we had a couple of iterations just trying to find what's the social API. What do we need to provide to app developers to let you guys make cool apps? So once we kind of, well, that was focused a lot in JavaScript, right? And so if you see this diagram, this is the client, this is the social network, and this is your server. All the action is over here. You're doing a lot of client-side stuff. It means JavaScript. Then with version 8, we heard a cry from developers, hey, I want to do some server-side coding. I want to code in the language of my choice. So we enabled REST, which, you know, you just start seeing some more action here between an app developer's server and a social network. Now with version 0.9, we're focusing on making it simple, making it easy to develop. And another thing that does is just, you'll see a lot less requests going on here. It's just making the whole thing a lot faster. So that's really exciting, and we're going to hear a little bit more about version 9 later in the day. So the other thing the community does, we're building resources for ourselves, right? We're learning from each other. You know, when we do learn something, we want to document it somewhere. So we just launched this OpenSocial wiki, which has lots of, you know, code samples and an API reference. So if you see something that's not clear and you figure it out, you can go update the reference so that other people don't have to solve the same issues as you. There's discussion forums. If you go to this link, you'll get to a general forum where there's subforums where if you're developing an app or if you're writing a container or if you want to just talk about the community, there's all these subforums right there. So you can really, you know, meet the other people that are doing the same thing as you. And then the last thing, I just want to note the IRC room. You know, sometimes a web forum, you need an answer quickly or you just want to talk to someone in real time. So we have an IRC room, and there's usually about 40 or 50 people just lurking around in there. Okay, so another thing that we do, we're writing a lot of code here. One of the things that's really helped OpenSocial adoption around the globe is a project called Apache Shindig. And what this is it's a gadget rendering server that does, it's a lot of the code that social networks need in order to let these apps render on their network. So I won't go into the details, but you can look at the slides later. But basically, you just need to fire up Apache Shindig, tell it where your user data and your social graph is, and then it'll do all the JavaScript and security and stuff that you need to render an open social app. The other thing I just want to mention on is an effort that's just kicking off now, is to write client libraries. So a lot of that server-side code that you're writing on your servers is app developers. We don't want everyone to have to write that themselves over and over and over. We're going to share some code and we're going to build it together as an open source project. Those are licensed under Apache. And the final thing I want to leave you with is that OpenSocial has a big and a great community, and we're really part of a larger open community. Enabling the social web, OpenSocial is a lot about data and getting activities and friend graphs and stuff, but there's other problems to solve. There's security and authentication, identity, and it's a lot of projects all working together in the open to make this happen. So I actually want to introduce Joseph Smar, who's involved in a lot of these communities, and he's going to talk about where we're headed with OpenSocial. Thanks.
Hey guys, so I'm the newest member of the OpenSocial family, I guess, although I feel like I've been around from the beginning because I hacked the first OpenSocial container support into Plaxo to help get things going for the campfire back when it was sort of reverse engineering ORCID stuff on the wire. So it's really nice to see how far things have come and how much code there is to work with since then. And I say, there's this whole web becoming social thing. We're not the only ones that have noticed that, right? This is something that's very fundamental, and it's not just happening on social networks, it's happening across all sites. They want to know who you are and who you know, and you want to move that data in a way that's easy for users, but secure and private and makes them feel comfortable. And that's a very tricky set of challenges. And so when I'm thinking about where is OpenSocial at and where does it need to go, there still are a lot of challenges. Making open work on the web doesn't happen automatically. And if you think historically about the web versus the walled gardens of their time, or various other software monopolies that have gone on, like open only wins when the stack really works and the community can really embrace it. And so when I think about the sort of challenges that OpenSocial faces going forward, it's really the same set of challenges that all of these open building blocks face, OpenID and OAuth and portable contacts and so forth. There's a set of technical challenges, and OpenSocial's got the same set of technical challenges as all of these. As we're building it as a community, can we keep it simple enough that people really understand what they can do and get it up and running? Is it too hard to actually make it work? Is it too hard to debug? Sample code makes a huge difference there. So Shindig has been great, but right now Shindig's only in Java and PHP. There are a lot of people who program in other programming languages. More code would really help. And then when you sit down to actually write it, can you figure out how to get it installed? Can you figure out how to get that hello world going? That's something all of you people can help make better. One little blog post or one little, here's some problems I had and here's how I fixed it. That sort of community spirit goes a long way. And then, the promise is write once, run everywhere. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it's write once, debug everywhere, right? We've seen that all with things that in the past. And so the more that we can, as a community, figure out where are the inconsistencies, where are the ways we can make things so you can actually drop it in and move it across. We all have to constantly be vigilant of, are we making good on that vision? And it's not just enough for the code to actually work. People have to be aware of the fact that it works, and people have to want to have this be successful. So I think the community aspect of it is as important as the technical aspect, and it's something that is often easy to overlook when you're just having your head down in the code. But do people know what OpenSocial is? Do they know what it does? Do they think of it just as a way to run little gadgets inside a social network, or do they realize that there's so much more that it can do with these RESTful APIs and the sort of standard languages for profile data and people data and so forth? Are we out talking to people? Do people think that OpenSocial is this Kabbalistic thing over in the corner, or is it part of what's going around? How many times do you go to an event and I say, oh yeah, those guys are OpenSocial people, they get it, or if I have a question, I can find someone I know and talk to them. That stuff matters a ton. And I think we're doing good things there. I personally had a great experience working between the OpenSocial community and the Portable Contacts group to make sure that we could align our specs and they could speak the same language. And that was a case where we had to make some tweaks on one side and we had to make some tweaks on our side. And there was a great kind of community process that looked very furiously in scrutiny, but was very open to making the changes necessary, and we ended up having a great win there. So we just got to sort of keep doing that. And the more you do that, the more you get out there, the more you show that you really are open. You don't just say that you're open. The more you really can get people to participate from elsewhere. You can make changes as necessary. That's something you kind of keep earning. And so I think all of us are ambassadors of OpenSocial, and if we all agree that this is the way we want the web to work, it's our duty each day to make sure that we really are building the right stuff, and we really are getting out there and talking to people and having that conversation and keeping it a real community. But I'm very optimistic about the way things are going, and it's just incredible to think how much we've accomplished in this first year, and all these other OpenStack technologies have made so much progress now that 2009 is looking to be a very exciting year indeed. So I'll hand it back over to David with that.
Thanks, Joseph. So, told you a little bit about what we hoped would happen. I think certainly my takeaway, backing off, and over the last couple of days of pulling together all the people and the facts and looking at, hey, what's happened in the last year? This has been a phenomenal year. It really is great to be one. The stuff that you all have accomplished on many dimensions, there are things that have happened that certainly I didn't expect would happen that are great. Many of the things we hoped would happen did. This is a start. It's great to be one. I want to talk, in the last 4 slides, I want to talk about why next year, when we get back together and look back, we're going to say, wow, that's even better. We've gotten even more done. And how's that going to happen? It's going to happen the same way the first year happened, by people in this room saying, hey, I hear what you're doing. I kind of like that, but there's this piece that I think we could do better. I think we could do more there. That's where it comes from. A lot of the things that you just heard were things that nobody had even thought of when we were doing Campfire One. A lot of the things that were, things like, let's have an Apache Shindig project. No one at Campfire One had even said those words. Someone in the community who said, hey, you guys ought to do that. Here, I'll help you get started. That's where that came from. A lot of other things. All right, let's go on. 4 slides real quick. What are some of the areas that I hope will happen over the next year? We want it to be better for users. What are some of the things that we've thought of? Just we, meaning the 5 or 6 people that I was chatting with about what do you want to see me say about hopes for next year? What are some of the things? I'd like to see OpenSocial help users whether they're on the web or off the web. Let's make this something that makes the social experience better for people on phones also. What about new features? We've got a great set of features, but there's a whole set of other things. And I know there's app developers here that would love to give users some new cool apps if the platform allowed them to. Let's invent some new capabilities, just get them in the platform, make it even better. Next, for developers, kind of the obvious things. Joseph's been hitting on them. There's a lot left to do to make it even easier to adopt and build OpenSocial. Better interop between containers, so when you build it for one, you all are going to get a bunch of practice with that this afternoon. I'm expecting we're going to get some great feedback, both about how to communicate, best practices for writing apps that run across containers. Let's make it even easier. Development tools, how about making money? There's a lot of developers now, you're going to hear some of them in a bit, who are talking about how they're making money today with their OpenSocial-based apps. There's things that I think could happen to make that even easier. How about for social networks? Well, let's make it even easier to get more applications in the library. Let's create some more reasons for people to come and visit. And let's help the standard allow you to bake OpenSocial extensions even deeper into your overall environment. What can we do to make it seamless that you've got these social extensions to your site? How can we extend the standard to do that? What are some innovations or practices we can do? And then finally, for the web, as Joseph was talking about with all these different standards, I'm really hoping that we see that next year, I think the tagline at the top of that is a new OpenStack starting to emerge. Next year, I want to see, this isn't even news. I want to see, this is how the web works. Of course, you're doing something social, of course, OpenID and OAuth, yeah. I mean, if you don't do that, it's broken. I want to see us get there, and we're going to get there by people pushing the edges of what we've got today, by people building things that try to put it together, and by people doing the magic that the web always does, which is surprising us, right? By someone here having an idea and saying, I know how to put tab A in slot B, and I've got a company, I've got a business, I've got a market, I've got something new that we can do by putting together all these building blocks. That's the opportunity that we have taken advantage of in the first year. There's a lot more to do in the next year. So last slide, thank you, all of us. A round of applause for everyone. This has been a tremendous year, but as you can see, there's a ton more to do. Let's keep going. You're going to hear a few more people talk about some of the specific successes they've had, some of the experiences, and then start to lean forward with, here's some of the things we're working on in .9, and then we're going to have a whole afternoon where you can get your hands dirty, start digging into some of the details of programming models, of architectural directions, and let's get some apps running on a lot of containers around the globe. Let's, that map, let's put your application, let's put a little flag for your application all over that map. That's what the container crawl this afternoon is going to let you do. Thanks, everyone.